these incredible poems by a writer named Kabir that Chris sent me. And I mean, it's really the first writings I've come across by any of these, great poets and saints that is so much the very nature of what Rudy taught me. I mean, it really is right on the way he talks and the things he talks about. A very incredible book. I recommend it if you, it's Andrew Harvey did the translation. He's a pretty famous guy. And it's poems and then photographs of India. But it's amazing how close he is to the same depth of understanding that I learned from Rudy. And I was very shocked when I started reading. I said, oh my God, there's a guy who really understood it, 500 years ago. So please work very deeply inside, and we'll have a meditation class. Unmuted, everyone. And if anyone has a question, I would be happy to try and answer. Does anyone have a question?
Stuart, can you talk about the correlation between softening and surrendering and how that helps us to strengthen the chakra system?
Between what?
Softening and strengthening, softening and surrendering, and how that helps us to strengthen the chakra system.
Not quite sure what you mean by softening.
Surrendering.
Surrendering. Well, look, it gets back to what I talk about all the time. If you're full of you, if you're full of your ego, your tension, your anxiety, I mean, I talk about this so much, I'm tired of it, I mean, there's no room for God. There's no room for spirit. You're just completely congested by your own garbage. And this is how most people live, because most people spend all their time in their heads. And when you're in your head, there's just going to be conflict. There's going to be duality. There's going to be basically illusion. So if you don't surrender all this stuff, and a word synonymous with surrender in our work would be transforming all this stuff into love, into chi, into shakti, into energy that flows through your chakra system. If you don't do it, then, as I say, 1,000 times, you can only fit so much water in a glass. If you're full of you, then there's no room for anything else. So you got to let go. You got to surrender. All of the stuff that's been congesting most people all their lives. I mean, this is the key to a spiritual life. As I say, if you're full of you, there's no room for God. You know better than God. You are full of you. Even unconsciously, we're full of ourselves. You understand, we're so conditioned to live in certain ways that it's really difficult to let go of even our tension and the things that are poisoning us. So, learning how to do this builds inner strength. It builds determination. And as soon as you start getting a taste of God, then your whole need inside changes. All the economic things and the related all become secondary to a need to have a spiritual life. And then it provides whatever you need to grow. You don't have to do it, it just provides it, you know? All you have to do is be intelligent enough to how to use it consciously. And it's the biggest problem. People are so conditioned to live with themselves, you know? I mean, laziness, lethargy, this whole thing inside us is I can't do, I can't succeed in life. The fear of money, the fear of relationships, the fear of life. All of these things create certain conditioned ways that we control ourselves. And it fills us with ego, with garbage, with fear, with insecurity, with there's no room for God. We're constantly battling our own delusions. There's no room for higher energy to live inside us. We're full of us. So the whole, purpose of this meditation is to learn how to transform us, into a spiritual life. All of our fear, our anxiety, our insecurity, our things we've been living with since we were children, we have to transform all that stuff into a spiritual life. And if we don't do it, we're just stuck with it. Don't complain, because that's what you're stuck with, and you don't make the effort inside to transform it, to change it. That's all surrender is about, letting go of ourselves, making room in ourselves for God to come live. Not a bad idea. I made it. It's really a very good idea. Most people should be so tired of themselves. It's enough already. Enough. I know this creature living with most of my life.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now it's not just me answering the same thing every time I'm in class. Do it, for God's sake, so that no longer becomes a question. You become a living expression of somebody who is capable of doing what I'm talking about. Not because I need to control it, but for yourself, for God's sake, not for me. It's for yourself. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
So Stuart, to off what you just said, on top of that, are you saying that, doing it is that we're taking our mind and extracting it from those thoughts, like that, whatever's coming up, putting it on the one, right below the belly in the third chakra, and just working to maintain the focus, and just, is that the doing it we're talking about here?
I'm talking, and then opening your heart, being grateful, sustaining an open heart. So the mind is quiet. When the mind is focused below the navel, it becomes quiet. And then you can start receiving real knowledge, real wisdom, which has nothing to do with ego and IQ and intelligence. It comes from God. It comes from a higher source or energy that's infinite in the universe. It can flow into you because you're no longer congesting yourself with all of those thoughts and tensions and things that go on in people's heads. So you're receiving real knowledge, real wisdom. You're building the third chakra, so you have chi, you have power to sustain this. You open the heart, love, gratitude, love, compassion. You understand, learning to live with those things is learning to live on the highest plane that a human being can live on. And in order to get to that plane, we have to transform our inner lives. We have to get grounded. We have to get the mind quiet. We have to get the heart open. We have to be able to, channel sexual energy so that it ultimately awakens Kundalini. That's our job. Understand? That's the job of a human being. I mean, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, provides all the energy, all the knowledge, all the wisdom to do these things. But it can't give us these things if we don't make the effort ourselves, you understand, to change, to transform years of conditioned living into openness. We have to do it. And I don't want to sound like a taskmaster, but for God's sake, this is not easy. You're up against a lifetime of, yakking in the brain. It's a lifetime of this voice that never shuts up in the human brain. And the basis of this is so simple. It's just opening, developing a chakra system. Not that it's easy, it's simple. It's not some complicated aesthetic and, all of this stuff you read in books about the cosmos and, all that, whatever, cosmology and cosmogony and et cetera, et cetera. Nothing to do with that. It is simply developing a chakra system. Much more simple than, I used to read those books. Most of them gave me a headache when I was younger, I never could remember, a tenth of what I was reading, and I always wondered why. And then when I met Rudy, I discovered it was unnecessary. I didn't have to know all that stuff. All I had to do is build a system and then let the knowledge come from God. It doesn't have to come from things I remember in my brain. It comes from God. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I just wanted to acknowledge, because my question was also going to be about surrendering. So I love when it comes up with someone else, because then I feel like it's in the field. And I'm just humbly asking you, be patient with us. Because I feel like each time I'm in a different place to hear it differently, and I understand it from a different place. So I am grateful for your explaining it 1,000 times. It's always new. So thank
you. Okay. I'm grateful for you being in the class and asking this 1,000 times. Look, you know how long it took me so many years to learn these things. This is not something I just, I sat down in Rudy's first class and, oh yeah, okay, I got it. Look, 2 years into studying with him, I went to, well, the schmuck thinks he's having a spiritual life. That's what I heard from Rudy, Work on yourself. That's what he's telling me. Keep growing, just work on yourself. All of it will come. I don't know how many times I was called a schmuck by Rudy, And it pointed people who I never could see them as, oh, look how great they are and look how wonderful they are as teachers. But tell me this. And then he was saying, look at you, you're such a schmuck. This stuff, And I was like, whoa, until I finally got over it. I said, I'm not here to compete with anybody. I'm here to get his teachings. And when that day happened, I'll never forget, when that change took place in me, I walked up the steps to his ashram and I met him on the landing going into the house. He gave me a big hug and he said, Stuart, you really are my favorite of all of everybody. told me this. I mean, I went from the kingdom of schmuckdom to be his favorite. I didn't work for myself. You understand? If I didn't, I would go right back into the kingdom of schmuckdom again, you know? Understand? It's doing the work that is the key to all of this. Because everybody's kind of a schmuck, everybody in life, you know? I mean, you listen to all these politicians that run the world, they're all, my God, they're all insane, you know? They're all insane. And well, people are like, we live in a zoo. I mean, I once wrote in one of my books, you know, life is a circus, but nobody goes to a circus to have a lousy time. And it's really true. We come here to learn how to be full of love and joy and, you know, and not to get caught up in the circus. I mean, that's something that you would probably read in a book by Kabir. You know, life is a circus, you know. But nobody goes to a circus to have a lousy time. You know, it's really true. I mean, we come here to learn how to be happy and to love and to live interesting lives. And I'm waiting for this COVID thing to get, although life has been pretty interesting, you know, but I wanted to get over it so it can really get interesting. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I'd like to clarify about the gratitude, one piece of that, Stuart, which is I get the sense that you're talking about a sense of gratitude. However, I experience gratitude a lot as thought forms, like an idea of what brings me gratitude. So can you just say something to the gratitude you're speaking of?
No, look, it's not an idea of it because that's in your head. It's a living experience of gratitude. Your heart melts, you know, it opens. You know, you are in love with life. And you're in love with this great gift that we all have called life. And you're grateful for it. It's not something in your brain. It's a living experience of this. I mean, if you conceptualize gratitude, you're going to turn it into something sterile. But if your heart opens and you have that feeling in your heart of just that deliciousness of what kind of miracle life is, you know that feeling? You've ever had it? You
Sure.
know? Well, that's
Yes.
what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, well, my God, you got a present and I'm in your head, you say, oh my God, that's wonderful. Or, you know, something like, you know, it just becomes conceptualized. It becomes sterile. I mean, I sit in front of all of you. I have so much gratitude. I mean, I never know who's going to come here, but all of you come. And I'm so grateful to sit here and do this with all of you that I feel like I'm a 2-year-old child, you know, that sweetness inside, that love inside, that inspires me to do this. Oh, who the hell would want to do this? This is really hard work. You know, I mean it. And that never lets me ever take anyone who's sitting in this class for granted. Anyone. Every person who is in this class is precious. And then I move it over to the rest of my life. I went to the eyeglass place today. Everybody I met there, we laughed, we had fun, we talked, you know, everybody was precious. I mean, I remember Rudy once said, he said, look, if you all don't want what I teach, I'll just leave it on a table in a Chinese restaurant. See, I'll never forget he said that because people were, you know, kind of crazy. They weren't really working in depth on themselves. I mean, you ever listen to the talks he gave in Big Indian? Every one of them is about, I'm not coming back here because nobody works on themselves. And it's, I mean, I was in those talks, listening to them. I used to go up to Big Indian with them in the same car, And then, you understand what I'm saying? It's like you can't take it for granted. I mean, I'll repeat it again. Look, in the last 10 days, I have seen people who used to study with me. One of them I talked to on the phone, and it was shocking to me to see these people who I haven't seen in 25 years, 20 years, and to see how little growth has taken place inside. And not to judge them, but to say to myself, Stuart, I am so grateful that I spent that last 20 years doing this inner work and growing and getting slowly but surely closer to God. And, instead of just, personality and stuff. And I'll tell you, it was shocking to me to see people like that. And then one person, I got a phone call that he had a stroke. Used to be a student of mine back in the 90s. And that in itself was shocking. And if you spend 20 years with gratitude, literally pouring out of you for life and for the great treasure, you don't get strokes. Strokes come from tension, from being trapped in yourself with tension. So I had a kind of a long conversation with him. He could barely talk on the phone. It broke my heart. So I used to like this person very much. And it broke but I hadn't seen him in literally 20 years. Don't take it for granted. Do your work. If it's not this work, some work that you got to do every day to develop yourself. I'm not here to keep people doing what I do. If people want to learn what I learn, they'll come. I can't make them come, In fact, if somebody doesn't come for 2 or 3 weeks, I take their name off the list. I'm tired. I used to chase people. I don't do it anymore. If somebody wants it, they will come. And then they will not only come, they will make the effort to be here and to do it and to grow. And then, boy, I see them and my heart just fills with all kinds of gratitude to have people like that in my life. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, well, thank you. God bless you all. And I hope you take these things that it's not Stuart talking, it's really a higher energy coming through. Take them deep inside. They're precious. And don't just come while I'm in meditation. It requires a different level of concentration and focus in order to do this work in great depth. So thank you and bless you all for being here, and you have a wonderful evening, and there'll be class tomorrow evening. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. God bless you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you very much.